This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Good morning, true seekers and true crime junkies. Welcome back with another episode of Hit the Road, Jack, Finding the Zodiac. I had some laundry and research this week that actually changed the entire presentation 2 days before I was ready to air, but I thought that this was probative to bring up. We were not going to be covering actual murders this week because we were going to be taking a step back and looking at some of the involved cover-ups and some of the things that I think support some of the information that I've been giving you guys thus far that was just realized this last week. Now, I have been working on getting the Aphrodite Jones show, the true crime Zodiac episode from Investigation Discovery, which we've been working on frantically to get things cut and clipped together because I've been given permission to show only parts of the interviews with Dennis and I. I thought we were going to be showing that this week, so it does say up in my presentation corner that I'm going to be playing the Aphrodite show, but that is going to actually happen at another time because in the process of actually putting these things together, I came up with some extremely interesting information in regards to some of the control over this particular crime spree. And it's starting to make me wonder who the real Zodiac is. Was it Jack or was it the media? Was it the people involved with the cover-up after making large amounts of money off of newspapers and news and things that actually sold newspapers to the tune of millions of dollars when these crimes hit these particular areas? But I'm going to flip over now to the presentation. We're going to be looking at some additional emails from Sad Badge. We talked about him not too long ago. He came in acting as though he was a friend, giving information, talking about Captain Fong of the SFPD, round filing everything on Jack or the Zodiac in this particular instance, and how they had shuffled over all of the information over to Tom Voigt. And we're going to show you how some of that played out. But one of the excerpts from one of the letters written to Tom Voigt, I wanted to start with that because I thought that the FBI made an astute point that the Zodiac seemed to have predicted, if you will, the upcoming crimes in his communications. And in this particular excerpt, it says, "My peers and I thought I was psychic. They used to call me priest. Being heavy substance abusers and not caring to divulge any information to what we all believed was a corrupt and perverted system." And this is what we're going to talk about today, folks, is the corrupt and perverted system that has kept this mystery a mystery in order to make money, while the real suspect got away with it. He was actually named 6 years previous to his death, and we could have had some resolve. Families could have had some closure. Anyways, he said, "I remained in my own eyes and those of my peers to be clairvoyant." Again, predicting or telling the future. I think that is because he had an agenda, and that agenda was set up for him by somebody else. So he knew what he was going to do, and that made him capable of writing about future crimes. Now, back to Sad Badge real quick. We did talk a little bit about the cheese letter, and he said that I had missed this one and there were many more. Now, I don't know if these are letters that people are making up because, again, I have no source for them and I don't even have the actual letter anymore to do an examination on. But he goes on to say, Sad Badge says, "I did not say the cheese letter had never been published. Voigt posted it briefly and was ordered to remove it." Now, key in on the words ordered to remove it. I have been suggesting this entire time that Tom Voigt has been funneled all of the information to maintain this mystery, to continue to disinform the public, and to make sure that Jack is not investigated on his forum. He says, speaking of Voigt, he was interrogated and named names to spare himself, just as expected. Expect an announcement soon canceling his gathering in Vallejo, as his name will be mud come this time next week. Regarding Perez, keep this private, he says, but she is being set up as a scapegoat. That was not the initial plan, however. He then says, or I asked, who ordered him to remove it? And I am still confused as to how another person knows you gave that to me. So there's some contention in regards to an individual finding out that Sad Badge had given me that cheese letter. Of course, I don't know who he's referring to when he says this, but I'm asking. He said they couldn't know unless they are an operative. So he's indicating basically that there is CIA involvement, FBI involvement, somebody involved in this process that is monitoring closely everything that's being done. He says, you may post info on my behalf, except anything requested to be confidential. And he goes on in another email to say, Voigt doesn't call the shots at zodiackiller.com. The info posted there is by SFPD design. It's all a front. Even Richard Gaikowski is 99% make-believe. He was invented to distract from Jack Terrence. Regarding the cheese letter, I don't know that anyone knows you saw it. It's not a big secret and was once posted online. Maybe they guessed right. Who knows? He indicates you may announce that Mr. Voigt is being held as we speak. This week will feature huge news, maybe the story of a century. Oprah, here you come. Now, of course, I made light of that entire thing. I don't need anybody to tell me that I'm going to be rich or famous over something that really has no bearing on me. This is about the victims' family members. I've also always indicated that if I was ever to compile a book or put all of this information into one place, that those proceeds would then go into an account for the victims and the family members of the victims, because far too many people have made money off of this particular case. But I elaborated and said, tell me you're not kidding, because I have info that SFPD was planning to back that wacko, Deborah Perez, and the FBI is watching for it. He says, we have reason to believe Perez and company were paid to create a firestorm to both distract from and discredit Mr. Kaufman. Voigt is being held at a federal detention center in Sheridan, Oregon, on Ballston Road. I believe you can call them and confirm. I thought you'd like to break the announcement and get credit, but I suppose it can wait until the news picks it up. I said, the center you referred to is a prison, not an FBI detention center. Are you messing with me? He said, the interrogation facilities are second to none. Why would I give you such specific info if I was being deceptive? In any event, if you don't believe me, I'm sure you'll watch it on the news. Now, of course, you're going to go back and forth. And yes, we could all hope and pray that somebody or anybody that was involved with the cover-up or disinformation to deter from the actual suspect being captured and convicted for these crimes should be under some type of criminal charges for sure. Naming names also indicates that Tom Voigt is working under somebody else, that he is doing this on behalf of somebody else, and he gets to benefit from it monetarily by continuing the tactics that he's used. So I pose the question, why didn't the FBI close the Zodiac killer case on Jack W. Terrence Jr. in 2010 when they told us they were going to? Is it because of the anthrax letters and they already know who Jack is? They're under scrutiny for the handling of the 9/11 events, including anthrax, and they worked with John Walsh's America's Most Wanted, who suffered the loss of a child, and the Zodiac wrote him. The FBI took all the evidence that Dennis had and have yet to answer many questions or return any of it if it has no validity in this case. I also haven't mentioned at this point in time, but we are going to also be bringing in Harriet Suchet and Nolan Del Campo. I want to welcome you guys to the show so that you can chime in when you are ready.
Yay.
Good morning. Hi, guys. Things are just starting to get a little interesting.
The cheese letter. Okay. Go.
Yes, we did do the cheese letter. Okay. So basically, Sad Badge sends me this article that was printed in the press. It said, I would prefer to communicate through the message board so there is a public record in the event something happens to me. So I don't know if this guy's messing with me or if he has real reason to be concerned that he's leaking information he shouldn't be. But he says, perhaps you could start a new thread called Sad Badge. I'll be in touch soon. And I do believe we have a Sad Badge thread, and many of these. Yeah, many of these emails
we were both running that at that time because Dennis was quite busy. So and I had bought bought a portion. But anyways, keep going.
Yeah. I don't want to go into that stuff just yet. We're going to get to the letter, and I'm going to have you full on speak about that. But there's a lot for me to cover before we get there. So anyways, the press release that he sent to me said investigative reporter journalist Larry Garrison comes forward to support the evidence that Guy Hendrickson is the Zodiac killer. Now, I want to let everybody know Larry Garrison works for ABC News, and we know who ABC News is, right, Harriet?
Yeah.
We've got They are actually owned by Walt Disney. So, and we have the theory of the Alice in Wonderland, the White Rabbit, Time is a Feature, all of these things that coincide with Disney films. And then it was released on the PRN Newswire, which I'm not familiar with, but I did do some research. Now, this is what they had to say. Los Angeles, June 9th, PRN Newswire. For the first time in 25 years, the San Francisco Police Department will call in a key potential witness for questioning to identify the Zodiac killer officially. Officially, they say. Deborah Perez has been called in by Lieutenant Michael Staskos, badge number 724 of the SFPD Homicide Unit. Date to appear is June 17th, 2009. She will be questioned about her father, Guy Ward Hendrickson. The nation's top forensic experts have endorsed her handwriting. Now, remember, you guys, the nation's top forensic experts is Bart Baggett, the very mentor who tried to keep me from solving this case, tried to prevent me from making an identification on Jack in this handwriting. Also claimed that there was a genetic predisposition to write like the Zodiac when Deborah Perez was not even biologically related to that man. At any rate, it goes on to say, have endorsed her handwriting, psychological, now we've talked about that, and DNA evidence showing participation in the Zodiac killings. Her evidence was recently turned over to Lieutenant Staskos of SFPD. Deborah Perez was 7 years old at the time she became his innocent sidekick. Deborah became aware of her father's involvement in the Zodiac murders years later after viewing a segment of America's Most Wanted composite that resembled her father. Now, again, they're trying to copy exactly what Dennis Kaufman had said. He watched America's Most Wanted. He had actually been in the car while hearing a woman screaming and running around it in the middle of the night. On April 29th, it says she came forward with a press conference at the San Francisco Chronicle. So again, Chronicle's involved here. The glasses which she handed over to Lieutenant Michael Staskos on May 5th, currently held in evidence by SFPD, will be part of the DNA proof needed. Deborah Perez feels she owes it to the family of the victims to put this case to rest. Are you kidding me? That's exactly what Dennis said. Though others have come forward, no one has been able to substantiate a claim as Deborah has achieved. Are you kidding me? With eyewitness testimony, forensic and DNA evidence, she is also the only witness ever endorsed by members of famed attorney Melvin Belli. So now we've got the Belli is being mentioned and involved, and his former disbarred attorney partner is the one that stood on the steps of the Chronicle with Perez. The Belli Group has requested the Zodiac killer Melvin Belli files, which SFPD has in possession for 40 years. So now here's the great thing. We are just now being told by the news that they still have all these letters, that they have everything as of 2009, while they lie to the rest of us when we come forward and want to have answers or examinations completed. Larry Garrison, president of Silver Creek Entertainment, oh my gosh, there's your media reference, and investigative reporter and journalist for ABC News, has just come on board to support Deborah Perez. After his own investigations, Garrison verified the evidence, including handwriting analysis reports of Perez with professionals. This is disgusting, you guys. This is the ultimate and let's lie to America. Attorneys from the Belli office have also confirmed that Deborah was, in fact, the child who accompanied her father, Guy Ward Hendrickson. They're not biologically related. It's not his child. I'm so mad. To Mr. Melvin Belli's office. Larry Garrison states the proof will be in the forensic evidence and DNA once Deborah has her chance to have it analyzed. Contact Larry Garrison at 805-370-3630. Please, everybody call that man and tell him he did not do his job. He did not investigate this case. He has no clue or concept. Well, I'm sure. I'm sorry. He knew all of this was lies.
Yeah.
You are probably, and then I went on to say, you are probably privy to this information, but how coincidental, right after our conversation. Sad thing is that we already had the inside scoop on this little event. Somehow it makes things less shocking, but you still have to wonder who would go through with the likes of such an event with what is being investigated at this very moment. What is your take on these games? You said that Perez and company was paid to do this. So how are they receiving support from SFPD? Well, the answer to that is easy. They're involved, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I went ahead and I looked up to see who was involved. We've been now named SFPD, the Belli office, friends, families, partners. The San Francisco Chronicle is involved. Now, the people who put this out, ABC News out of New York. Now, they are, like I said, owned by the Walt Disney Company. I still think that this tie-in and this lead back is really, really coming to be true to the media and their attempt to keep this a mystery so they can continue to make money. Now, when I looked at PR Newswire to see who they were, it says they're a distributor of press releases headquartered in Chicago, Illinois. I am not shocked anymore, you guys.
Randolph Street.
On Randolph Street.
And I have a feeling it's named after Randolph Hearst. He was pretty big in Chicago.
I would not doubt that, not even for a second. Like I'm done falling out of my chair when all of these connections lead back to the very same places that some of these murders have been committed, and the amount of newspapers and the press that was received in regards to these crimes. And then the ultimate either cover up or let's pen up the wrong person and hold them responsible for crimes they didn't do. Either way, like I said, ABC News investigative reporter Larry Garrison. Now we have ABC News on top of this, Walt Disney Company on top of this, PR Newswire on top of this, and PR Newswire, lo and behold, is owned by Western Union and the United Newspapers. So again, these people are backing this information, putting it out there for America to see, and it absolutely disgusts me. This is what actually brought the entire thing to light. As I was working with the engineer on this case or on the Aphrodite segment to put it together in a format in which I can show information without violating any copyrights, I had then received a email that contained the acquired footage stills public domain log for the Aphrodite show. Now, I think Dennis would have been fit to be tied if he knew that Tom Voigt was responsible and making money off of a documentary he did not receive a dime for.
Friggin' chump.
I can hear it right now. I can hear Dennis's head exploding.
You Fruit Loop chump, Voigt.
Basically, as I went through, I was delivered a 25-page log of all of the stills and footage and public domain information that was received. And of course, in that, there were 212 total images and footage or stills that was included in this. And it actually shows that the copyrighted stock list shows that Tom Voigt has the copyright to 135 of those 212 stills and footage. Now, we know Tom Voigt is not old enough to have acquired any of these images or this footage on his own. So he wasn't the photographer in these particular instances, but he has now been given what they called worldwide perpetuity. And that basically means, most commonly used in accounting and finance, means that a business or an individual who receives constant cash flow for an indefinite period of time, like an annuity that pays forever. And according to the formula, its present value is calculated by dividing the amount of the continuous cash payment by the yield or the interest rate. So you guys, I've already highlighted right here on the presentation, just on one page, the majority of it, if it wasn't from San Francisco Chronicle or Robert Graysmith. So again, you have other individuals who are continuing to receive perpetuity or royalties or whatever it is every time these images are shown, which would then kind of solidify why the investigation discovery true crime episode of Aphrodite Jones on the Zodiac used to be free. You used to be able to go to YouTube and find it. Now it's copyrighted and it is blocked inside of the US. Nobody can show this. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing to try and get this episode seen by people.
I think I still have a copy somewhere.
Yes, I have of mine too, actually.
Of the Aphrodite Jones. With right. You and on Zodiac.
I actually uploaded it to YouTube, but it's blocked in the US, so nobody in the US can actually click on it and see it. Wow. We do see that that Tom Voigt stuff is worldwide. So basically, if you show that, then you're doing copyright infringement, and you could be held liable for any fees or damages that they might have suffered or lost due to your showing of this information.
Mm-hmm.
And so Voigt's profiting off this stuff, huh?
It has to be hugely. 135 of those images out of 212. He basically made the entire documentary that Dennis thought was about Jack. Disgusting. And Tom is the biggest disseminator of Jack, the biggest hater on Jack that there is. So interesting that he was the one who supplied the majority. But this leads us back to what we all originally thought, that Tom Voigt was in with the SFPD somehow, either by family, by knowing somebody, but he was given the rights to pretty much everything, which would also explain how he ended up with these color scans at the late date that he did, right after they claimed they had gone missing.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings me back to another fraud that he's perpetrating. So we see the letter to the left is the Melvin Belli letter, the one that's heavily disguised. And we can see how different this ink actually even looks. It looks almost not even real, almost cartoonistic. Mm-hmm. When you put that side by side to the same type of paper and the same type of pen that is used by the Zodiac, which is basically like your felt tip pilot razor pen, you can see the difference between the ink structure and the actual strokes of the writing itself. So yes, we have him also not only facilitating a fraudulent suspect. Gaikowski is not the one. I got hit up on YouTube the other day by a comment, and the person says, I haven't been around for a while, but I find this very interesting, and this is my favorite suspect right next to Gaikowski. I went, Gaikowski looks nothing like the composite. Why would you even consider him? Well, either way, so now he's fraudulently showing the public images that would prevent an actual identification, because it is not the original form of the writing. He's putting forth false suspects. He is dejecting any real suspect like Jack Terrence. He won't even discuss, and if you try to bring him up, you'll get kicked off his board. So this man is now making money off of keeping this thing a mystery, and I think the proof is in the pudding with the Aphrodite Jones show. I think, it's my personal opinion, it's a conflict of interest for SFPD to facilitate Tom's misinformation and to give hours of taxpayers' money in investigating the fraudulent acts of Deborah Perez, Bart Baggett, and Tom Voigt while dismissing Jack W. Terrence Jr. What do you think, Nolan?
I think, yes, it is a conflict of interest.
I don't think that you should be out there promoting false things while making money off the very people who suffered in this case. It's just disgusting. Well, that brings me, and I'm not going to completely go over these letters. I just wanted to show you guys some more falsehoods and some more deception on Tom Voigt's part. He did receive 2 letters, as we had indicated from, or I thought it was just 2, but Harriet's here to show us something brand new today, which I did fall out of my chair over that one. Anyways, in this particular excerpt, it says, I received this anonymous letter, and this is Tom Voigt on his message board. I received this anonymous letter November 22nd, 2002. The last 2 paragraphs of page 1 and all of page 2 are being withheld.
Can I explain why?
No. Hold on.
Okay.
Are being withheld, and I have to say that must mean that there is decent information or something identifying.
The cheese letter's in it. The cheese letter is the last page. Jack, I decoded something where Jack is saying, "Yes, I sent the cheese letter to Tom," and I think it's this one, the Taiwan, and that's what's being withheld is the cheese letter.
Well, and should we find that
saying
to be...
It is a fake 1969 Zodiac letter but at November 1969. That's why I was after you for the longest time to try to find it. But yeah, okay. So that's what is missing is the cheese letter itself. He said he did send it to him. Okay,
now that would be interesting to conclude, because then in fact it would show or support that the I mean, obviously he says Jack in the letter, like everything is a reference to Jack o' lanterns, Jack rabbits, Jack cheese. Like, I'm sorry, I can't help it when we talk about cheese. That kills me, but that's right up Jack's alley. So, so basically, Charles Terrence immediately recognized. He looked over my shoulder, saw that I was showing Dennis these letters to Tom Voigt, and he recognized his father's writing, even though he didn't know I had already stated to Dennis that I believed that it was Jack's writing. Now, Voigt denies these letters, 2002 and 2003, as being from the Zodiac Killer on his website, and he may have even eventually taken them down. But I still have them here in clean view for everybody to see. And of course, them being mailed out of the country, such as Thailand and Malaysia, we're going to get to what that's about, because there's definitely a link to that as well. Now, this is the second letter that he had sent, and this time he provided DNA and fingerprints. And I don't see anybody actively putting their DNA and fingerprints into a letter saying, I'm the person you're looking for, if it was very easy for those tests to be completed and rule you out as a suspect just by those tests. So I tend to believe that this did actively contain both the DNA and the fingerprints of the Zodiac Killer. And at this point, they went on a full-on rampage of trying to make Dennis look like he was crazy, to cover it up, to cause the shitstorm that we saw with Deborah Perez, the fake Gaikowski stuff, everything. So
if Jack sent that stuff, Voigt had to have it tested, so he has to know, and one way or the other, whether Jack is Zodiac.
All they had to do was run a scan on, they have a system. Even then, I was finding out that they could scan those fingerprints and it would come back as Jack's military fingerprints. I mean, they had a system then that was easy to just scan it. I think that's what they did. They said, holy crap, this is this guy, Jack. We have to bury this. We have to. Yeah. So Jack knew what was going on. So.
Well, and that's what I think brings us to one of the more interesting parts of the segment today. And this is where I want to spend the rest of my time, is the fact that as I called Harriet a couple days ago, completely excited out of my mind that we now have proof that Voigt is making money off of disseminating this case. The disinformation that he's providing to the public is unjust. It is actually downright criminal for him to be doing this. Needless to say, Harriet told me about a new communication that I have not seen. And it was extremely interesting when she sent me the letter or the envelope to this particular greeting card, which the greeting card we know is Zodiac 101. It was mailed January 10th of 2001 to the San Francisco Chronicle. I immediately recognized this writing the second I saw it. And we even have bell top A's in it, you guys. Jack stopped covering up his bell top A's, and we see them in here. And this is the stuff a person waits for. This is the stuff. This is the vindication after all of these years of people saying, oh, but the A's are different. No, they're not different. They're just a different version. And I've showed you how Jack uses them all. But when I saw this, I immediately likened it to the 1986 letter in Sacramento that was also sent to the San Francisco Chronicle. So now you guys can see the similarities in this. This is just absolutely amazing.
Jack 101.
Jack 101. Oh my God. I don't even know what to do with myself right now. I'm so excited. Like, it makes me want to break this down. But the only writing in this particular envelope is actually the envelope itself. He did not write on the greeting card, as we'd seen. That was again.
He did? The greeting card? Yeah, he did. But we're mainly covering this envelope, but the greeting card itself that went in there is a stenographic code, and I had to cry. I cried.
No. But I'm saying he didn't handwrite in there.
Yeah, he did.
There's no hand. I don't see any handwriting on the inside of this. I don't see the inside of this card. Okay. I need to get a copy of that.
The envelope.
All right, right.
We're going to have another show because otherwise we're all going to be crying.
Right. All right. So basically, Harriet says at this time, Jack So I knew it was going to say something about John or Jack because of the J's in it. The numbers, Dennis was 34 years old in 2000. Jack was 41 in 69 when he stabbed Hartnell and Shepard. America's Most Wanted segment did air on December 28, 1998, and it had Tom Voigt, site runner, claiming he was wanting to solve the Zodiac killer cases. Lastly, and I will add more soon, but it's very hot today, Jack knows that Dennis took court and other documents to Sacramento FBI, and that it is true they believed the evidence to be credible. So
the part that made me, when I seen this, and I realized it was going to be, I make it sound easy, but it's anagramming everything possible, identifying the stamp, everything. I quickly saw this. I said, this is going to say something pretty big. But Dennis really, in the long run, didn't exactly believe Jack had his back. Jack is saying this is when Dennis had just joined, finally got across into this website as Kenny Kilgore, and he is saying,
well, hold on, I'm going to get to that. I'm going to bring you to your solve. I'm going to bring you to your solve.
Yeah.
So I'm going to show this. So I wanted everybody to see that she also indicated the arrow intending to link the message to the cryptic message yet to be discovered and completed. I hope to have the results soon, but as usual, weather plays a role. I added a close-up of the card that has what looks like a C and an N and maybe part of a sideways F. This is above the right side of the printed part of the card in red. Anyway, now threats are of dry lightning the next 2 days. If a fire starts, most likely we'll evacuate.
A fire shortly after that too.
I remember everything. Now, you guys, so we see these greeting cards. So here's another greeting card from the Zodiac, and it's a guess who message, which is kind of typical. But matching the 1986 letter to the Voigt solve is going to bring us to Harriet's solve here. Now, you did a lot of work on this. It looked like you had something like, what did I say? 270 characters that you had to work with in this message.
Yeah, but it came out very easy. I looked at it. I said, this is going to be addressed to Tom Voigt. So that's why 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, that came out first. That was like, this is the code key. This is actually a message for Tom Voigt, who's working with the Chronicle. And so I will read it from my book here. Well, I guess I can see that. Anyways, it says, send your ass. Tom Voigt, Dennis Coppin joined. Let me read it from here better. It joined your. Come on. I was just floored by this. Okay. That I'll do this sideways. Send your ass. Tom Voigt. Dennis Coppin, join your site ISP, leave stepson alone. His traitor mother called San Francisco City PD, police department, after the show, December 28, 1998, America's Most Wanted, got officer. And then he's basically saying, quoted, John Terrence Jr. is it. Brian C. Hartnell, UCR, which is University, the college student, Cecilia Shepard, Napa, California, bury us a suit hid in PA system. That Sacto FBI thought court documents information credible in 2000. Year 2000. So Jack is knowing everything that's going on.
Absolutely.
But he's got Dennis's back. And if I remember correctly, Dennis told me when he was trying to get through to Tom Voigt to join the message board, Tom Voigt, according to Dennis, knew his heritage, knew he was part Spaniard and Navajo, and said something derogatory to him. So Jack is knowing this too. So he's saying, send your ass. So he has his back. And I know we probably don't have time to go into the card, but I just wanted to cry with the card. He's addressing it to oh my God, he's Dennis.
Yeah, no, go ahead and read the card. We have.
Okay. So I decoded it. It says at the top, it's July 29, 21, stenographic code, Happy New Year 2001 anagram. Okay, I'm going to try not to cry. It basically came out as Dennis Joy at AT&T code 350, the area code, and sister and brother-in-law Richard Larson from January, this is his wish, from January 1st, 2001 to the end of December. Here's wishing you a year to enjoy and remember with exclamation mark. First, spouse state, if DOA suggests DNR, do not resuscitate. Today, I'm so sorry. I murdered my own innocent dear ex-wife in the ICU, pulled the IV, unplugged the IV. And then it says, because I'm sad, I got caught, tut, JT, signed, Jack Torrance, as if he's going... And he's hitting himself with the head.
So he's basically admitting to what Dennis had suspected this entire time.
And this is a message for Joy Pope and Dennis when they were living together.
That's giving me goosebumps. But how would they have ever known that message? I mean, they didn't have the ability.
He was trying to get across. He was, I understand, he was trying then that Jack realized he was caught and he's trying to confess. He's trying to talk to the family. But this is Jack's life. Confessing and getting a message across in code.
What did the original message inside the card say?
It's full of misspelled words. Let me try to find it. It's the card starts out to say Happy New Year, and it's by Carlton Cards with the weird CN. I'm going to go into stuff that I was a vendor. I know about cards. So anyways, but then it says basically very barely. It's supposed to say, Dear Editor. It says, Dear Sir, whoever... And it's misspelled. Whoever you are, they're just first disgusted to read what seems to be a news, and then there's a lot of misspelled and things that.
Well, try to read it so that we can get an idea of what.
That nobody really cares, but the relatives of innocent citizens murder in our beloved SF. It's always the. And he's trying to spell pedestrian, but it's all misspelled. Okay, fault. Right. Never those bastard Muni drive the way the majority black and Asians. What happened with the white people drivers we once had? Are they all retarded or retired? I can't tell what it says. Anyways, on welfare or at Laguna Honda, from now on, there will be a Muni driver executed for every citizen murdered in the streets of San Francisco. And then it says, from January 1st to the end of December, here's wishing you a year to enjoy and remember, exclamation mark. That's the card itself. But there's something weird written at the top, ICU, in his handwriting. Anyways, it says, you thought I was dead? No way.
Now, so the Muni stuff that you're bringing up is also running in tandem with the information that I had just brought to light in regards to Senator Voinovich, who also lost his daughter during primary elections. She was ran down by a van and killed. And then we see similar messages in regards to the Muni system, which he was highly responsible for back in, what was that, Ohio? So now this is kind of running in tandem and making that connection. Cross-referencing and making that connection to those actual letters. So Voinovich is a victim just like John Walsh originally was, but these individuals seem to come out on top. It's almost as if their children were taken to correct some behavior that somebody either politically or high up.
Getting I'm sorry to say it, but getting even.
So basically, we now have John Walsh involved, the FBI, Bart Baggett, Tom Voigt, SFPD, the media in the way of ABC News, the news, NP Newswire. Like the list is getting deep here, you guys, but this cover up is definitely in play. And I think that we were adequately able to show that today. And now to see this 2001 or January 2001 letter that was mailed to the San Francisco Chronicle, we can link them directly to being the Chronicle was segue. They're the segue,
Hearst,
right?
They're the ones that became bought by the Hearst company in that year, or 2001. So that's why Jack's writing them.
Letter says the Berryessa suit hid in PA system. That was shown on the Aphrodite Jones episode. Dennis reenacting the finding the Zodiac code.
Jack is saying that Nora knew where the suit was and had told the cops where the suit was when she called the cops.
And so they would have known about this in 2001, and Dennis didn't find it till 2008.
Mm-hmm.
So literally, for 7 years, they allowed Jack to abscond from or evade arrest and conviction over something that is possible they knew.
Yeah. So Jack is just trying to reach out. And but that's what made me cry, seeing that this is a message for Dennis and Joy and all these. And,
I would love to see that. If you can get that image of the inside of the card over to me, I want to complete an examination and show everybody how this rounds out, because those Belltop A's were exactly what I presumed that they had attempted to hide in some of these letters they've altered for the public's perception. But now we're seeing it. They were there all day long. I cannot wait to include that in the examination.
Okay, but it's in the book, but I'll try to find it, because where I found this was
is this DB Cooper?
Yeah, it's in the deep, but it's in a website. Last I checked, that's why I said no. Wait a minute, I checked again. I said I think I found it amongst Dennis's stuff too, but they were claiming a copyright over this.
How can you copyright evidence in a murder case? That is just the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
This is either public domain or this is in Dennis's files.
You know what I'm starting to wonder, because the Voinovich stuff I also got from a previous FBI profiler's website, who has a website on this and has access and has produced these images, which again runs it right on the outside of law enforcement being able to contain the information in a open murder case.
Mm-hmm.
Is that making it crazy or what, Nolan?
Oh yeah, it's wild.
So I hope that the family members that may be watching are realizing that Jack did have their back. He was trying to confess, and he wanted them to get rich off of this, make the money, not these other people. He really wanted them to be successful. So he's saying he's so sorry. And I got a reason to believe why he kind of temporarily lost his head and did things to kill Nora. And he's like, what did I do? Oh my God.
Well, that would make sense now if she called in on him and then dies just the following year. That's just insane.
Well, something triggered him, MK Ultra wise. I'm trying not to go too out of the fringe there, but he realized he's like, oh my God, what did I do? Did I black out and just do this and kill her? And then he's realizing he's really sorry. So,
anyway. You know what? We do have enough minutes left that I didn't know if I was going to get to this today, but we had some additional information in Dennis Kaufman's book that I found kind of shocking. I'm going to move through the Zodiac era fairly quickly once we get started, but I wanted to add this in here. Since the handwriting confirms that Jack is the Zodiac author, I'm not going to spend a lot of time investigating these cases, who they are and why they might have been the hit. We're going to allow the letters to speak for themselves, and then Harriet solves to maybe back that stuff up. But in Dennis's book, he talks about Jack being friends with a Bill White, which was an El Dorado County sheriff. Now, I call me crazy, but both Jack and his dad seem to have friends that were judges, friends that were law enforcement, friends that were in areas that most of us don't have, are not friends with. I mean, maybe Nolan can answer this, but I find that a lot of people in law enforcement, or say judges and attorneys, they tend to hang out with the alike crowd, right?
Yes.
It's very rare that people are personal friends with attorneys unless they were married to somebody who was an attorney that knew that attorney. Or, the judges.
Or maybe in other types of law enforcement. Yeah.
Well, and even like doctors. I mean, how many of us know a heart surgeon, right? Like they stay within their own realms. So for Jack to know these people and to have coverage both on criminal cases and in this particular story I'm going to tell right now, kind of shows that Jack is in the know, or in with people that are much higher up than I think even the position they're holding, maybe even as a sheriff or as an editor or other things like that. But Dennis goes on to say, when we lived in Mount Auckham, we lived on deer meat practically. I remember that Jack Jack was good friends with a El Dorado County sheriff named Bill White. We used to bring him deer meat all the time. On morning 2 of my uncles came and woke Jack up. It was still dark. What does that say? Wait a minute here. Oh, I got 5 minutes. Let me see if I can whip this out real quick. Okay. On morning 2 of my uncles came. On the morning, 2 of my uncles came and woke Jack up. It was still dark outside. They told Jack they had a couple deer that needed to be dressed. They told Jack that he could have one if he showed them how to dress them. Jack agreed. One thing they failed to mention was that they had been shooting all over the canyon trying to hit one. Someone reported the gunshots to the police. Jack went down to where the deer were and started to clean them. Jack heard something and stopped and listened, then continued. Then the spotlights came on. It was the police. They were all 3 arrested for poaching. And I believe we have this particular indictment in hand. Someone reported, his friend Bill White was one of the arresting officers. Later that day, when Jack got out of jail, he said he was going to get Bill White one way or another. A couple weeks later, Jack and I were going somewhere and we saw Bill White's patrol car in front of this bar. It was in a little town called River Pines. We pulled in and Jack told me that he would be right back. A couple minutes later, I hear Jack yelling at Bill. I heard Bill tell Jack that he had to arrest him because of the other officers that were there. Then I turned around to see what was happening and Jack was beating the shit out of Bill. About the time a bunch of guys came out of the bar to help Bill White. They helped Bill get Jack handcuffed and into the back seat of the patrol car. Jack was on his way to the El Dorado County Jail. My mother picked me up a little while later. We got back home and my mother called the jail to see about getting Jack out, but his bail was too much, so we would have to wait until Monday to see if the judge would lower his bail. Monday morning, the phone rang. It was Jack. He was out of jail and all of his charges had been dropped. We went to the Placerville to pick him up. His face was black and blue. It looked like he had been hit by a Mack truck. Mom asked him how he got the charges dropped. He said it was easy. When him and Bill White got to the jail, Bill opened the back door of the patrol car. I kicked him in the chest with both feet. I had to make him mad so he would use that billy club on me, and I was successful. I pissed him off so bad he worked me over with his club. On Monday, I knew my face would look its worst. The judge walked into the courtroom this morning and said, "My God, what happened to you?" I told him to ask Bill White. He said, "Bill, did you do this to this man?" Bill tried to say something, but the judge told him he wanted to see him in his chambers. Minutes later, the judge said, "Jack, could you come back here?" When I got to his chambers, the judge said, "Jack, I will drop the charges if you agree not to file a lawsuit." Jack happily agreed. Jack knew exactly what to do to avoid going to jail. A couple months later, Jack was sentenced to 30 days in jail for poaching. When we picked him up, we didn't recognize him at first. He had shaved his head. This was to change his looks to avoid detection. So this was an extremely interesting series of events here that prevented Jack from actually going to jail for that particular incident of actually accosting and beating up a police officer or a sheriff. So again,
what year was that incident? What year was that?
78?
Well, if he did it, I would have to go back and look at the indictment. I have the court records for the poaching that he was charged with. And I'm not exactly sure of the actual year, but that would be a good thing to research just to validate the story and that this Bill White was actually a sheriff at that time.
So it was in the 70s then?
Yeah.
Okay. Because later, my ex-girlfriend was a prosecutor in Placerville, and a good buddy from law school was a city attorney.
Huh. Well,
that
was
would
later.
Be interesting. That was in the 90s.
Are you still in contact with those people?
Not really.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess that pretty much we're at the last minute. If there's anything you guys would like to add at this point, I will pick up next week on this last portion of Dennis's book. And then it looks like we'll be moving right on into, murders. So that'll be awesome.
Yeah. This is great. I'm glad that finally got to bring up something, because I've tried to post stuff about this on Facebook and on Twitter that, hey, Charles, or the family members, Jack had your guys' back and he really was sorry and he wishes you well. He wanted you to make the money off of the movies instead of Tom Voigt.
And he did say that he wanted a portion to go to the families, and he wanted a portion to go into separate accounts.
That's what and I'm saying that he meant his own family, loved ones' families. He didn't give a flying bleep about Farron. So
I was just gonna say, I think that because he was forced to kill these individuals, that he may have some remorse in the end for some of them. For sure. That's it, you guys. We are at the end of the segment. I hope everybody has a wonderful week. We have now just finally broken up what I promised to break up for everybody, which is the huge, massive media cover-up in this case. Everybody take care, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah. Happy holidays.